I get started, there is a very special person that's here tonight that we did not introduce. But let me give you a little bit of background about him. He was born and raised in South Carolina. And currently, there are 91 surviving Medal of Honor recipients in the United States of America. We have the privilege of having one of them here tonight. He is United States Navy SEAL, Mike Thornton. And Mike Thornton's story is indicative of who we are as Americans. Because wounded 6 times, he stopped, picked up 2 of the members of his SEAL team. And in history, this is the only occasion when a Medal of Honor recipient saved the life of another Medal of Honor recipient. And with 2 men, wounded men, wrapped around his neck, and he himself, as I stated, wounded 6 times, he swam for 2 hours to get out to their rescue ship. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what makes our country great. That's what makes our country exceptional. And I present to you Medal of Honor recipient, United States Navy SEAL, Mike Thornton. What I want to talk tonight about is very simple. I think that we have gotten to the point in the United States of America where we need to understand what we stand for. No longer is this about Republican or Democrat. It comes down to something. I had a great discussion at the Starbucks today with a woman who had previously voted for President Obama. And I asked her one very simple question, because I kind of got tired of her talking about Bush, 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 Bush. I asked her, what are your principles of governance? What is your philosophy? What is your ideology? And she looked at me like a deer in the headlights. See, this is what we have to understand in America. We have to, just the same as Sun Tzu once said, to know your enemy and to know yourself and to know the terrain and the environment in countless amounts of battles, you will always be victorious. If we are going to be victorious, if we are going to make sure that the future and the legacy of this great constitutional republic is preserved for that young man right here who gave that Pledge of Allegiance, we've got to understand what made this country the greatest nation that the world will ever know in 233 years. But first of all, let's talk about who the other side is. See, the other side believes in 4 basic premises, and this is the premise of socialist ideology. And the first one is to nationalize production. And if you look and consider what is happening right now in the United States of America, where our finance industry is under attack, where our banking industry is under attack, the automobile industry, healthcare industry. Now you have to go through the government to get a college education loan, so they're starting to take over the education system. And then if cap and trade goes through, that's the energy sector. This is the biggest grab of the federal government ever to come down into the private sector and take over more and more aspects of our production. And it's clearly written. You can go and you can look at any philosophy book, and you can go and read the Communist Manifesto of Marx and Engels, and it lays it out right there. When you look at all the taxation that's being levied against the American people, that's the abolishment of private property. When you look at the fact that in our colleges and universities, and down to our high schools, and even down to our middle schools, they're starting to control our education. They're starting to get into the minds of our young people. That's why a lot of people are very proud of what Governor Chris Christie is doing up in New Jersey, where he's taking on those teachers' unions, because he understands the threat that is to the future generations of Americans. That's who they are. To nationalize the production of this great nation. You know, not too long ago, the USA Today had an interesting article that was written front page, and it did a comparison of public sector and private sector compensation. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in the history of this country, public sector compensation is outpacing the private sector. In December of last year, it was reported 25% of federal government employees are making 6-figure incomes. We cannot continue along this road where we're growing and growing and growing government, because that affects what we are able to do in this country. It was not built upon the growth of government. It was built upon the ingenuity and the innovation and the courage of the American people. But yet that's not what they want to see happen. Which leads to the second tenet that they believe in. It's the creation and expansion of the welfare state. I call it the entitlement state. Some people, like Margaret Thatcher, once called it the nanny state. This government believes in creating more and more victims. It is creating a 21st century plantation. It has certain individuals that stand out there as the overseers, because that is how they will continue to have those slaves that are dependent upon them, not enslaving the body as they once did, but enslaving the human will and enslaving the human mind, so that you can sit there and you can try to have an intelligent discussion with a person and they do not understand what they believe in. You know, 47%. You got to remember that statistic that came out 2 weeks ago. 47% of Americans not paying taxes. But yet 47% of Americans vote. And it's very easy for an all-encompassing government that is nationalizing production to promise you some free health care, to promise you free education, to promise you a free car, promise you a free appliance, promise you free cell phones. Just like that young lady said back in 2008, if I vote for him, I will not have to put gas in my car and I will not have to pay my mortgage. Now, you all laugh about that. But that young lady that said that was at the Bank Atlantic Center in Sunrise, Florida, which is 1.5 miles from where I live. That's what lives in and amongst us. And if 47% becomes 50%, and if 50% becomes 55%, it is unsustainable. Because you all that are standing here today are the antithesis of what they want to see. You all are the production class. And if they can continue to try to make you the bill payer for all of these things that they're promising, which is why the federal government is growing, which is why our debt and deficit continues to grow. Because they're not so much concerned about what is right for the American people and what is right for this country. They're concerned about the power that they want to hold. They're concerned about enslaving the American people, not empowering the American people. If it ever gets to the point where 45% are taking care of 55%, the United States of America, as we know it, is then gone. And what do you say to your children and grandchildren when we leave them the mess that we can possibly leave them? See, they believe in economic and social justice. See, they don't believe that America is a great land of equal opportunity. They believe that America is a land that has to have equal achievement. They believe that they have to come down and engineer results and outcomes. They believe in looking at me, growing up in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia. Instead of giving me a ladder and a safety net so that I could climb and be all that I could be, they would have just given me a hammock so that I could lay up sorry. They would have enslaved me. Because they believe in a social utopia. As the president said in Elkhart, Indiana, there will be prosperity for all. But I have to tell you, when you look at the Declaration of Independence, it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nowhere does it say the guarantee of happiness. It is about setting the conditions for the success of each and every one of us as Americans. It is not them trying to come down and ruling for us. And ladies and gentlemen, the last thing that they're after is the creation of a secular state. Isn't it a shame that someone ruled that the National Day of Prayer is unconstitutional? Because they have not gone back and read the writings of the Founding Fathers. They have not gone back and understood that the Founding Fathers were godly men and the women were godly women. They do not understand that this great nation, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, was established upon Judeo-Christian principles. Their goal is to replace God with a little g, which is government.